Hey everyone, it's Jacob here with another daily vlog. And one thing that I've been thinking about lately, because I've experienced and have seen this happen, and what I wanted to talk to you about today is the difference between sympathy and empathy. And these two are oftentimes mixed up, but they're not the same thing. And one of them we need a lot more of in our organizations and in our lives, and one we could probably do with having a little bit less of. So sympathy is simply about saying, I'm sorry. Okay, it's very easy to do. We get told I'm sorry all the time. At work, when we check in for a flight, if we have bills we need to pay and we have a late fee. People are very good at saying I'm sorry. That's not a hard thing for us to do. Empathy, on the other hand, is about putting yourself into somebody else's perspectives, putting yourself into somebody else's shoes. And I want to give you two examples that I've experienced firsthand, speaking at two different financial institutions. Okay, and these are companies that you have heard of. You all know these companies, but I'm not going to name them here. And two different companies that I had the opportunity to work with. Now, one organization, as I was speaking there, and I witnessed this firsthand, there was a senior leader who was there, and a relatively new employee who's been at the organization maybe a couple of weeks, maybe a month, 2 months. And this new employee was being introduced to this senior leader, and she was talking about how nervous she was because she wasn't there that long, and she was trying to make an impact, and she wasn't sure if she was doing a good job. And the senior leader at this organization says, wow, that seems pretty tough. And then he says, don't worry, I'm confident you'll be able to get through it, and I'm sorry you're having a tough time, but everything will be okay. Okay, so that's what happened at the first organization. Then a couple months later, I was speaking at another organization, also a financial institution, and a very similar thing happened. A bunch of leaders were getting together. I was getting ready to give my talk, and maybe 15, 20 minutes before I was supposed to go on stage, some new employees were there, and one of the new employees was talking to a senior leader. And she too was saying that she was at the organization for a couple months, actually maybe a couple weeks. And she was talking about her challenges and how she was nervous, again, trying to make an impact. She was a little scared. And this senior leader said, you know what, come and sit down with me for a few minutes. And I'm actually talking to my wife on the phone, standing in the corner, and I tell her, Blake, hang on a second. And so I listened to this conversation, or I told my wife I would call her back. And so I'm listening to this conversation. The senior leader sits down with her. I think he was an SVP or a VP at the company. And he asks her to share more about her challenges and her problems and some of the things that she's struggling with at the company. And the senior leader sits there for a few minutes and he says, I remember when I first started working here, and I very much had the same experience. I also didn't know who to go to when I needed help. I also felt a little bit scared and nervous because I wanted to make an impact. I also wasn't sure if I really fit in or if I was good enough. And he said, so I totally understand where you're coming from. And here are some things that I was able to do to be able to overcome that and to feel like I better fit in. And so he shared his advice with her. He shared some of his tips. And then he also said, by the way, I'm always here to help you. If you ever feel like this, I want you to come directly to me, come to my office, and we'll have a chat and we'll see what I can do to help. Okay, now, again, two almost identical organizations. The first leader at the first company just basically said, I'm sorry, I'm confident you'll get through it. And the second leader, so he practiced sympathy. The second leader very much practiced empathy. He put himself into the shoes of this other employee. He took a minute to really try to imagine, and he took a minute to relive his experiences, to match his emotions with hers, to really put himself physically, mentally into her shoes, and then respond accordingly. Those are the types of leaders that we need more of. Those are the types of people that we need more of. Those are the types of employees we need more of. So really what I want you to think about is next time you are having a conversation, and this is especially important if you are a leader, meaning a leader of other people, a leader where people come to you for guidance, a leader where people come to you to share ideas, feedback, they look up to you, they want to emulate your behavior. It is even more important for you to practice empathy than sympathy. But again, this is something relevant for everybody. So the next time you're having a conversation with somebody, I really want you to think, are you putting yourself into somebody else's shoes? Are you really trying to get their perspectives? Are you trying to match their emotional state? Or are you simply saying, I'm sorry to them? Because again, we don't need people to say, I'm sorry. We need more people to say, I understand how you feel. I was in that situation once. Here's how I dealt with it. So that's the little thing that I've been thinking about over the past couple of days or so, since these are fairly recent experiences that have happened to me. I'd love to hear from you. Do you have a story of how either you have practiced empathy in your company, or do you have a story of how one of your leaders have practiced empathy in your organization that you can share with me? Leave me a comment below, and I hope you're having a wonderful day wherever in the world you are, and I'll talk to you very soon.